welcome to our interview session, our Q&A live interview with Panyan and myself. I'm Nugua, and I'll be asking you some questions today about what your journey has been like so far in building Live and Love Nutrition. And yeah, please tell us more about that.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks for having me. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Yes, I'm a fertility dietitian from Live and Love Nutrition. I work in Toronto. I work with many different clinics in the city as well. And I am a food first person. So I focus on fertility nutrition to help optimize hormone health and psychoregulation, sperm parameters to help get people pregnant faster and stay pregnant to have a healthy baby in the end. So I work with one-on-one either women or couples to reach their goals of growing their family.
Amazing. Yeah. And how did you start this journey? I'm very curious as to how you decided on being a dietitian and nutrition.
Okay, so being a dietitian, okay, that was a long time ago. So I have a food science degree from the University of Guelph as well. So I worked in the food industry for a few years and enjoyed that very much, but didn't feel satisfied in the work that I was doing. I was working for industry and I wanted to work with people. So I decided to go back to school and went to the Toronto Metropolitan University, which was then Ryerson, and I got my food nutrition degree. So I have 2 food degrees now, 2 bachelor degrees. So I became a dietitian because I wanted to work one-on-one. And then I worked in clinical for a while and still felt really great about it, but it wasn't perfect. And I decided I wanted to be a private practice dietitian where I was working one-on-one with people, really develop that relationship and help people through, I call it their food identity. So improve, I wanted to help people improve their overall health, of course, their gut health, their conditions, help them understand the relationship between nutrition and health. And so I was looking to become a private practice dietitian. And then it was all very serendipitous, actually. It kind of all just happens together. So at the same time, I was working on that. And then on a personal note, I was working through my own health and hormone changes. So I entered perimenopause very, very early in my life. And so working through the nutrition and the hormone factors and all of that. And then at the same time, a colleague of mine was opening a fertility clinic. And so we had a conversation and they said, I need a dietitian on my team. I was like, absolutely, happy to do that. And so then after my first patient interaction, I was like, okay, this is it. I have found what I want to do. So I've been there ever since, working with the fertility field. It's fantastic. I love it.
I love it when journeys are not exactly mapped out, and like you said, yours was serendipitous. So it makes sense that you already wanted to know, you already wanted something, and then it just sort of found you, I guess. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly. I was looking for it, and it came. I'm like, oh, this is it.
And I loved how you touched on food identity and different problems that can be solved with different diets. For example, gut health and the relationship with the nutrients and nutrients that you have within your meal. And within the field of women's health, we also have perimenopause that you touched on, which unfortunately a lot of women are not educated enough about that, and menopause, and it's a whole kind of like a different bubble, which is very ambiguous for a lot of women. I've had conversations with women who have been misdiagnosed, and because of some of the symptoms that they were experiencing, they were misdiagnosed for 3 years with another condition, while the symptoms that they were experiencing was for perimenopause or menopause, and they live in downtown Toronto. Imagine how frustrating and how sad the situation is for women who are living in rural areas or in developing countries. And you touched on perimenopause and how some women, including yourself, can actually go through perimenopause even earlier than expected, and not a lot of women are aware of that. And nutrition and your diet plays a huge role in actually managing the symptoms and when you're going through that phase.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it is unfortunate because a lot of conditions under women's health, we don't have enough of the research yet, right? We're still like PCOS and endometriosis. And I mean, that's why the umbrella of unexplained fertility still exists, right? We're still learning about what it could be. And there's just so much more research. And perimenopause and menopause, I mean, this is we're scratching the surface potentially on the research, right? We just don't know. And I, on a personal note, I have so many girlfriends now who are like, I have a sore shoulder. I don't know what's going on. That can be a symptom of menopause or perimenopause, right? There's so many things we just don't know. I'm glad to know the conversation. I'm glad to hear the conversation is opening, right? There's a lot more conversation now than 10 or 15 years ago with respect to this, which is the beginning of the new journey. So Yeah, there's a lot here. We have a lot to know, a lot to learn. And nutrition definitely, there's a lot of research with respect to nutrition and its impact on overall health and condition management, definitely. And I still think there's so much more to come, especially with the gut health piece that you mentioned. There's still a lot to know about the gut health, actually, and the uterine health too, right? They used to think it was a sterile environment, and it's definitely not. And that is going to be an exciting field, I think, in the future to learn the impacts of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And you touched, go ahead. I was gonna say, no, you touched on the lack of data, which I think is, I couldn't agree more with you. Even through our research, through our studies in product development, every day we face challenges, and it's because of the lack of data within the area of women's health. And if we had that database before, we didn't need to spend months and months creating that database before being able to move forward with product development. And you mentioned endometriosis, and I think that's very interesting because I had conversations with fertility doctors in downtown Toronto, and I asked them, do we know what causes endometriosis, or do we know what are the symptoms of endometriosis? And all of them were like, no, we still don't know that. And I think that's one of the things that we are very excited about with Fibra, because we can monitor symptoms. Sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry about that. But we can cut this out in the recording of the interview. And a lot of them said that they don't know what causes endometriosis, or they don't know what are the symptoms for that. Again, we're talking about downtown Toronto, a very metropolitan city. And then this is why that we're very interested about Fibra, about the future that Fibra has in terms of potentially monitoring symptoms and these biomarkers for finding correlation between endometriosis and, for example, correlation between each of the biomarkers that we're tracking within the smart underwear. And if it shows significant fluctuations in women who have endometriosis, so that we can use that as kind of a tracking point to be able to tell women you have endometriosis. And there's a kind of a direct link with infertility or having a hard time conceiving with for women who have endometriosis. So there's a lot of kind of lack of data that still exists.
Yes. And endo is an interesting one because I think, don't quote me, but I believe the average diagnosis for endometriosis is like 8 years or something. Like it's a very long time for symptom onset to diagnosis, especially for endo. Even PCOS takes a really long time. There's more research for PCOS out there, but endometriosis is a growing field that needs to be addressed, and I think it's coming. But it's very slow.
It's very slow, really very slow. And that's why I love that we're spotlighting topics like this that aren't exactly talked about as much. Perimenopause is something that a lot of women didn't even know, or I guess you do not know exists. They're just like, okay, well, there's menopause and then there's before menopause, but there's no, So like, there's nothing like, oh, where do I stand when I am about to get into menopause? So it's very exciting that we're talking about things like this and letting more women know about their bodies and their health. And you touched on something that was very interesting, which I want to learn more about, which is food identity. I've never heard that one before. So do you mind telling us more about food identity?
I think it's a term I coined, actually. I call it a food identity. So when I work with clients or patients one-on-one or couples, the way I like to do my interventions is I like to learn first their food identity. Like everybody has an identity in different aspects, right? We all well understand that. But when it comes to the food identity, the way I see it as a dietitian is what is your food relationship? How do you see food? How do you approach it? Where do you fall in with respect to the way that it fuels or nourishes your body? Is it, do you find it comforting? Do you not? Is it stressful? Is it not? Like all of that. And then are you somebody who eats breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Are you someone who just skips over breakfast and is like, I just can't, and you hit lunch? Or are you a chronic dieter? Or there's so many things that to me creates your food identity. And so when I know that in a person, then that's when I can really provide interventions that will fit into your style of relating with food, right?
Very personalized, very personalized. Okay.
Very personal, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because I think when it comes to dieting and just generally being healthy, many times it's like a one size fits all approach that dietitians take to it, and not exactly understanding what your food identity is. I love this word. I'll be using it going forward.
Okay, good. I'm glad. You're welcome to. Because otherwise it won't work, right? Otherwise it's like, okay, well, you know what? Here's a diet plan for you. Go and do that. Well, if it doesn't align with who you are,
100%, absolutely. Yeah, that makes a whole world of sense. And I guess that brings me to the next question. I would want to know, or rather, we would want to know what you're most passionate about, or like what's the most rewarding part of your job?
Okay. That's a good question. I like that question. The most rewarding part of my job. So there's a few really big rewards. I mean, when a patient comes and says that they're positive, right, with pregnancy, that is a huge reward. I mean, that's just like makes my day. I love that. So that's a huge reward, definitely. And then, bring them all the way to the end, and seeing the little person, is a huge reward. I mean, that's what keeps me coming back for more, for sure. The other thing too, another really aspect, was just thinking to yesterday, actually, is when I have someone come to me who's in a real state of unwellness, I guess is the word, right? And they know they're not feeling well and they know something's wrong, but just aren't able to figure what it is that's going on. And seeing the conversion from, like, I had someone yesterday who's been with me for a little while now. And she came to me in a real state of unwellness, I guess is the word. And now she's truly on a healing journey, like feel just so many things that we have done along the way. And then she's gone and seeked out other professionals because that was needed. And seeing the healing journey and just where she came from to where she is now is extremely rewarding. Like, I got off the call yesterday and I just spoke to my husband, no personal information, but just was like, this is amazing. Like, this is just, I'm so happy.
That is so
So
sweet.
those, yeah, it's very rewarding. But yeah.
That's really interesting. I'm so glad that you get to do this for women and women who are like, who just need someone to talk to. So it's extremely important to have someone like that. And I guess it's sort of related to like the rewarding parts, because in the process of like the rewarding part of your job, like 'cause this question is about like how like what similarities you see between diet and cycle irregularities and like fertility challenges that you see in your patients. What before, like when they come to you saying, oh, hey, Teresa, I need XYZ done, or this is the goal that I want to achieve. What exactly do you see in many patients with like their diet and their end goal? Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of, the links between diet and cycle irregularities or fertility challenges. I mean, my brain works in like a flow chart, right? So this is kind of how I see things. But common factors definitely are things like inflammation is a huge one. So whether we're testing for inflammatory factors or just having the conversation with respect to inflammation. So inflammation is a common one. Like, we cannot really truly have a successful conception if you have a lot of inflammation in the body. The two fight each other. So inflammation is something. Blood sugar balances or insulin resistance is a big one that's very strongly linked to diet and lifestyle factors that we can address. But when insulin is high or blood sugars are high, it impacts the function of the ovaries and ovulating. And so therefore you get cycle irregularities and fertility challenges. So through diet and nutrition and lifestyle changes, we address blood sugar and insulin resistance for sure. Thyroid is a big one that comes up. A lot of underactive thyroid, overactive thyroid. Where is it under? Anyway, thyroid conditions are a big one that we have to address. Really, we address that one through blood work to find out what's going on and address that one. But that impacts weight challenges, right? So then weight challenges are kind of, it's a one-on-one basis. It's not my go-to thing that I'm like, oh, you're this weight, we need you at this weight. It's more of a secondary thing outside of all of these factors that we're looking at. So those are related. I mean, if there's a desire for weight loss, then we do that for sure. If there's a need for weight loss, we do that. But those can be a common factor as well. And then thyroid, insulin resistance, and inflammation is a big one. Those are the common ones. Oh, and then gut health. That's the other one. Gut health is one that it's a huge passion point for me as well, is addressing the gut health and the uterine health I'm always curious to know what that is and help addressing that, always improving gut health. But poor gut health leads to overall poor health. And then, we have all these other signs and symptoms. So we address kind of the root cause there. So there's quite a few things that relate to cycle irregularity or anovulation, for example, not ovulating, which is anovulation. That can be really strongly impacted with dietary and nutrition changes.
Wow.
And I like how you have a very comprehensive approach, and because all of these conditions go hand in hand. If you have PCOS, then you might have thyroid problems as well. You might have insulin resistivity as well. And if not, maybe in the future, you're very, very prone to insulin resistivity in the future. And then just out of curiosity, and I'm going a little bit off the script here.
Okay.
I was wondering if for women that come to you, they actually come to you for diet, you've had kind of specific diets related to lowering their stress level and having, because the stress plays a very important role when women are trying to conceive and when they are going through the trying to conceive journey. And I've had conversations with those who have been trying for years and years, and they've been under a lot of stress. And as soon as they stopped worrying about it, it happened. And we're talking about 5 years of trying. So stress plays a very important role in the journey. And I was wondering if you've had any encounter with that in terms of the diet plans that they've made.
So that's an interesting one, because this is kind of a bit of a double-edged sword almost, right? So when we talk about, so definitely when I'm working one-on-one, we talk about stress alleviation, like reducing stress, reducing cortisol levels and lifestyle factors. And there are some nutritional interventions that can help bring down those stress levels. I try really hard, because when you introduce nutrition changes or nutrition kind of expectations during the day, that can add to stress sometimes, right? So they're right where you're like, oh my gosh, now I need all these things, or I can't have all of these things, and that can be stress adding. So I work, sorry?
No, I was agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I work really hard actually to address those concerns, that food noise, if you will, is what I'm going to call it, the food noise that we all hear. So I try hard to say, okay, you know what, we're trying our best to get all of these nutrients that we need, but if it overwhelms you, let's have that conversation and see where we can fit in. That's going back to the food identity thing, because we don't want to add stress. And so I talk a lot about things that we can do to alleviate stress. Even just walking can be a real stress, relief, or there's a lot of different things that we can do. But yeah, this is the thing. The more that you try, it's a balance. It's a balancing act between, because the fertility journey itself is a very physically and mentally stressful thing to go through, right? And so I work hard to try to reassure and give the confidence that you are doing what you can when you can, and everything else is okay. Yeah, like I said, physically and mentally stressful. And all the interventions that you have to do through a fertility journey is invasive, right? Invasive, intrusive. We're like, we're taking in a lot, right? The food, the supplements, the medications, sometimes you have to, the needles, sometimes it's suppositories. Like there's a lot that we have to do, which adds to the physical and mental stress. But I think your product, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is going to allow women to feel like it's just part of their day, right? It's not an additional mental thing that you have to take on to do this, because knowing your fertility window, like the nutrition piece is definitely there, but the second piece is needing to know your fertility window, when you're ovulating, what your cervical mucus looks like, all that kind of stuff. And I think your product will just help women feel like it's more of a holistic, like nothing more needs to be added to my day to do this, right? Yes. Like I'm really excited about that, alleviating those pain points, those physical and mental stressors for people. Amazing. I'm so excited.
I'm excited as well, because you literally took the question like right out of my mouth as I was about to ask it. So I'm glad that it wasn't even something that you had to like think too much about, and you already saw like the big picture of how Fibra intends to help women who are looking to conceive naturally and just even have more insights about their body and their cycles. Go about it without having to mentally think about like adding an additional step to your day. It's you're literally just wearing a pair of underwear and forgetting that you have the underwear on. So I guess I would also say that apart from, or I would say, I'd rather ask how you think that this could also supplement like natural efforts aside the like stress part of having to think about wearing the product. How else do you think that the Fibra underwear can complement natural fertility?
Okay. Yeah. I think that they complement each other beautifully. So I think that, this is how I see things. So you optimize your nutritional status, right? So you get your body in the best state that it can nutritionally. So that's taking care of decreasing inflammation, doing all this great stuff. But the second piece is identifying when your body's ready to conceive, which is part of the natural process. So I think the two pair beautifully, because we've got the ovulation happening, we've got all that set, and now Fibra says, okay, this is when, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is when your fertile window is, which is the second piece. And then the third piece is knowing if you're pregnant, correct. Right? So 1, 2, and 3. So that, you can't get pregnant if we don't know when we're ovulating and when our fertile window is. And this is where this is going to, I think, fit in beautifully to all the interventions we're already doing. And now we've got the second piece that's like, well, here's your time. And it's just like, it's like, it's like ice cream and chocolate sauce, They just go together.
Like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, like peanut butter and jelly. Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So finally, what would you say excites you the most about Fibra?
Okay. A few things. I'm excited to see how it all logistically. This is my science mind happening. I'm excited to see how this is working. Like, it's very exciting technology. So that's one thing that's exciting. And then what else excites me the most? Yeah, just this the ability for women to know what's going on in their body and not feel that it's an intrusive process that they have to do. You know, it's everything that females have to go through is just can be so intrusive, and you feel not whole because of all the procedures and things you have to go through, and it can get all feeling. And what's really exciting to me is that you have taken that out of the equation, right? It's now not intrusive. It's respectful in a way, right?
Yeah.
You know, it aligns with our comfort levels, and it takes away that stress. So I'm really excited to see where it goes, and how it's gonna impact a lot of the women up there. Yeah, I'm excited.
That's very kind. We're super excited to be partnering with you as well, knowing that our bodies are, you know how there's the age-old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
You are what you eat. So it's never been clearer than everything you've had to say just like in the past couple of minutes about how everything that, like, our body is such a well-connected machine, and like when one part goes wrong, it could affect another part, and then the whole body is breaking down.
Exactly.
And knowing that our diet is something that could fix some of these issues or help to manage certain symptoms or conditions is just like, it's so amazing. And knowing that you have the expertise and the knowledge to help guide women through such a difficult time for many who are finding it hard to conceive. Yeah, so knowing that you're in this journey with them, it makes me happy that there's someone like you who exists and is just doing this like whole holistic thing where women are able to come to you. And then the Fibra, on the other hand, that is helping in, now we've done our part with our bodies, and then we need to know what exactly is going on internally. Like, how is all the nutrition I'm taking translating into like a regular cycle? When am I my most fertile? Fibra is taking all of that and giving you the insight. So yeah, I would say this is a match made in heaven.
I think so.
So thank you so much for your time today. And it's really been lovely catching up with you. Pardon?
Thank you so much, Teresa. I couldn't agree more with everything that Nugua just said. We're very excited about continuing our partnership, and thank you so much for today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's exciting, and hopefully we will see each other soon.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.